Welcome back to episode 2 of The Day After. Today we're going to be talking about, most importantly, the Manchester City game coming on Sunday. How big is that game? Is it okay if we get a draw? Do we need to win? Or are we just going to get smashed? So first of all, let's talk about the Victoria Pilsen game. If you guys caught it in my match reaction, there was one thing I said that I expect to see online. And what was that? Bruno got an assist, and so they will cover up this horrible performance that Bruno had yesterday. He is going to be able to cover that up just because of that one assist, which, to be fair, was a good pass, was a good training ground move, and Højlund finished it off. But again, people are saying, Bruno, world class, Bruno this, Bruno that. After the performance that he put in yesterday, he should not even be near the team. If I was a manager, I would not even have him in the squad, just for one game. Regardless of what we think about the system and maybe even Amorim's tactics, if some of you question it, which me personally, I don't. But even if you do, one thing is now undebatable. That attack line is horrid. Whether that's Rashford, whether that's Garnacho. There are many players that are absolutely struggling, and not because of the system, but because they are just not good individually. But there are players again that we can use. People are going to point out Zirkzee had a horrible game. First half, I agree with you guys. Zirkzee did have a horrible game. But do you know what happened? Watch back from the second, Højlund got substituted on. So I want you to do this. If you question Zirkzee, I want you to go back and now look, once Rashford was taken off, once Højlund came on, when Zirkzee moved into the 10, did you see how he was influencing play, how he was dropping back and collecting the ball and trying to dictate? I'm not saying he was perfect because I think he's been better in other games, but there were signs of Zirkzee showing who he was. And again, guys, I'll have to reiterate this. The pitch was a big problem, and we cannot just discount that. The pitch was a big problem, and that is something I don't expect to see against Man City. We will see a much more fluid performance against Man City. Why that is, well, I'll get to in a bit. But the last thing I want to say is, Malacia, we have to give him credit. Some of you might have already ruled him out because, he's injury prone, this and that. Understand, he's been out for 570 something days. That means the level of fitness that this guy has is not going to be very high. He's played 2 games. In each of them, he played 45 minutes. And now he's putting in performances where he was covering Lisandro Martinez. If he was not there alongside Lisandro Martinez at left back, at least in the first half, he would have struggled. In fact, we would have conceded a few down Martinez's side because Martinez, you could say he was solid, but was he really solid or was he just hoofing the ball every chance he got? That's my complaint with Lisandro Martinez. Now, he's not playing it on the floor like he used to when he came in. Now he's a totally different player, which I don't like, which is why, like I say now every time, Dalot and Martinez, I'll happily ship to Madrid any day. Anyways, now let's get into what we're really here for. Manchester City, the Manchester Derby on Sunday. First of all, guys, what do you think is going to happen? Because I'm very interested to know. I know everybody is going to have different opinions. Some people think it might be a boring game, that we're going to draw this 0-0 or 1-1. Some people might think we're going to smash City. Some people think we are going to get smashed by City. Why? Different reasons, different trends, different opinions. But guess what? First things first, I want to know what you think. Put that down in the comments below. Now, let's go into what is actually the scenario. Why should we choose one side or the other? Well, first things first, in 10 games, ever since the 31st of October, Man City have won a total of 1 game. Just that 1 game. How many draws? 2 draws. 7 losses. And who have these 7 losses come to? Let's look at this. So, they lost away to Spurs. They lost away to Bournemouth. They lost away to Amorim Sporting. They lost away to Brighton. They lost away to Liverpool. They lost at home to Tottenham. And they lost to Juventus the other day. So, you can see in this sample of teams that all these teams are pretty decently set up. So, it's not going to be a rollover as much as we think, yes, City have lost 7 out of their 10. You look at these teams, they're all compact and solidly set up teams, bar Spurs if you want to say it. But even Spurs, when they have all their players, they actually do play compact and they have a direction, a vision of how they play. Us, on the other hand, we are very much a 50-50 side. We could play like we played against Everton, or we could play like we played against Nottingham Forest the other day. We don't know what kind of side is going to show up, but one thing is certain, that we will be pressing, we will have runners in the midfield and in the attack, that is one thing we can guarantee. And if there's any part where we need to expose, it is that left-hand side, guys. That left-hand side with Guardiola there is a weakness for Man City and has been all season. Now, there is Gundogan there, Matheus Nunes and Guardiola probably. Well, Guardiola is looking lost this season. Even though he's City's second top scorer. Can you imagine? Guardiola, the centre-back, is their second top scorer. This shows you where City is. City is not the team that we lost to twice last season. It's not the treble winning team from the year before. It's not like any Pep team that we've seen so far. It's more like the teams that we haven't seen, or the teams I haven't seen before with City. Like pre-2008. They're playing on some horrendous form. Think about it. Has Ten Hag ever only won 1 out of his last 10? I don't think so. Did Ten Hag ever lose 7 out of 10? Maybe he did. But as far as I know, he got sacked for that. There are many other managers. We can even say, did Ole ever go 1 win in 10 with 7 losses? I don't think so. Did Van Gaal go that far? He did go very close, but did he exactly get 7 losses in 10? Maybe not. So we have to understand this. City is not in the best place right now. But does that mean we're going to go and roll them over at the Etihad? Because historically, if you think about it, what game does this remind you of? Think back to how the hype is around Man City. Think about how it is building up around United now. And considering the fortunes of where the clubs are heading, apparently. Doesn't this remind you a lot of the Liverpool game when we lost 7-0? Because that's what it reminds me of. See, we headed into that game on the back of beating Newcastle in a cup final and Barcelona in the Europa League the week before. We were at like 100% happiness. We could not be more elated. But guess what happened? We showed up to Anfield. We should have probably led in the first half. But Gakpo scored and then the rest is history. I don't need to take you through that again. But we know what happened. Now this game kind of does remind me of that same thing where I am confident enough to say we should be expecting a win, but that does not mean we will win. Because literally this could go one or two ways. Either number one, City don't show up like they haven't been for the last 10 games. Or number two, City just turns it on. Why? Because it's a derby. If they lose the derby, don't you think Pep is nearly hanging by a thread? Yes, they won 4 Premier Leagues in a row. Yes, Pep has won the treble for them. All that's fine. But do you think the level that City have reached now, do you think Pep is not going to go if he loses this game and if he loses the next one against Villa away? They are going to be in deep trouble. And I think even the players would know that. Which is why do not be surprised if City now turn up and roll us over 3-4-0. Remember, by the way, guys, do not forget, Foden always scores against us. Haaland always scores against us, whether that's home, whether that's away. So do not rule out them two scoring. They always do it. Last season, in both games, Foden and Haaland scored. In the Etihad game the season before that, Foden and Haaland both scored hat-tricks. So do not rule out a City masterclass. It's around the corner. Yes, they haven't won the last few, but do you think City is going to keep falling like that? It's like any other team. Do you think Liverpool is going to keep winning at a constant rate like they are right now? No, at some point they're going to fall off. Just like us. Do you think we are going to be struggling this way throughout the entire season? Probably not. We're going to be on a winning run at some point. Same thing with Man City. They are on a losing run now. Don't you think City is going to turn it around? But at what point do they turn it around? That's what's important. That could be against us because it's a derby. It's like there's a bit more riding behind the game. So they might change something. But if we are to do anything at all, like you can see the lineup here, this is what I would field. Because we need to overwhelm that left-hand side. Because regardless of what you think, we want to go offensive, but not too offensive. Because we have to obviously respect the fact that it's Etihad and it's Man City. But the way that they're playing, the way that their aging midfielders are. Because I watched the Juventus game, right? I watched Juventus play Man City. Trust me when I say, if we have enough intensity in the team, we can beat Man City. That's how they're playing at the moment. Because their midfield, like if I pick up the last game that they played, they're playing Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne in midfield and Matheus Nunes. See, if we have enough intensity, none of these players are going to cause us high pressing problems. One thing I can give our team is our turnovers are just like this. So the second we lose the ball, if we want, the trigger pressing works and we win the ball back immediately. Against this kind of aging midfield especially, we could do wonders. But the thing is, how effectively are we going to play? Are we going to play with a defensive team? Are we going to field the same team that we fielded against Arsenal? Because if we field such a defensive team, I know it's Etihad, but if we field such a defensive team again, what's going to happen is we're probably going to give them too much respect. City is going to get into the game, dominate possession, dominate chances, and guess what? Dominate the game, ultimately winning it. Don't tell me it's not impossible, because we've seen it happen before. We've gone into derbies sometimes where we are, again, maybe not at this level, but we've still been confident and still we get rolled over. Like Ten Hag's first derby, we were confident. But guess what happened? 6-3. Same thing can happen on Sunday as well. And we just have to be wary that City can pose a threat. But you play your game and you play technical players. Regardless of whatever City does, we play technical players with the intensity, with trying to hold the ball and quickly transition. That is the name of the game tomorrow. Just off what is perfect for this Man City game, just so that we can expose Man City's left-hand side. I would play Ahmad in the 10 there, and I would play Mount. Yeah, I would play Mason Mount as Cam and Rasmus Højlund, along with Anthony at right wing back and Malacia at left wing back, Casemiro, Ugarte, and then your backline of Lenny Yoro, Matthias de Ligt and Mazraoui. Because Martinez, well, even if he's not dropped, I'm not too against it, but I personally would drop him. Bruno Fernandes has to be dropped. One of the worst performances I've seen Bruno have in a United shirt, and he might escape. In fact, you know what? No point in me saying anything because it's going to be Man City, he's going to start, but he should be dropped. Rashford, and I think you guys might have already seen the whole Garnacho thing where, well, I'm not going to go too much into that, but you know what happened with Garnacho and the leaking of lineups and all that stuff. Allegedly, at least. So, we might not see Garnacho play. We might not see Rashford play. That might be the perfect chance that we have to win this game. Because we need energy and we need technical ability to win this game. But most importantly, we need that individual brilliance. And that individual brilliance, unfortunately, will only come from one player. And we all know who that player is. That's Amad Diallo. And if he can get his service in, Højlund in the box as just a finisher, not as a complete 9, as a finisher is very decent. And he could do a job. He could score against Man City. I'm not ruling that out. But if we were to talk long term, we need a complete 9, not just a finisher, not just a link man. Somebody who can do both. Somebody with the Harry Kane, Benzema, Suarez mold. But that's in the long term. So what qualities do we have right now? Well, we have Zirkzee and Højlund. So if not for Mount, we could even play Zirkzee in the 10. We could play Højlund up front. And we could still get the best of both abilities. So one is a finisher, one is the link man. And we could still do something as long as Ahmad's playing, obviously, in the camp. Because against Pilsen, Ahmad was good. You might say he was not at his best ability. Yeah, I agree. But that's because, as much as you're going to laugh at me, it's because of the pitch. Anyways, that is Man City against United. Big matchup. Manchester derby. We win, we're 5 points behind City. Lose and forget the Premier League, really. I mean, then you can even probably forget top 6 completely if we lose against Man City. But if we win, things change. Top 4, it's there, but it's going to be a long journey. But at least it's within view. So, after all this, what do I think is going to happen? Man City against United. So my prediction is Man City 1, United 2. Yeah, I'm going to predict that we win. Because despite everything that's going against us, City is in too bad a position, and Amorim has already beat them in this very run, in this exact same run. He's already beat Pep. So I feel that we have an upper hand. Amorim knows what to do. So just because of that, I feel he might feel the right lineup, and it depends heavily on the lineup. The lineup is so important on Sunday. That's going to tell us whether we can win it or not. Really, that's going to be the difference. So hopefully by the time I'm doing the match reaction on Monday, I just hope that we've made it through, that we won the Manchester derby, and then we're looking towards Tottenham, and then we can just start a run from there. So there's your City and United preview, and see you all in the match reaction.